you now. Come bring the sound, play with the sunshine. Come let your head down, little light of mine. Yes, I'm falling for you now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, it's sort of what people say, and then when you get closer to the election, then everything.
Wait a minute, let's try that again. Hello, hello. There we go. What a turnout. Wow. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. On behalf of Seacoast Online and the USA Today Network, thank you for coming to our presidential town hall in Exeter, New Hampshire with Ambassador Nikki Haley. I'm Howard Altschuler, your humble editor of Seacoast Media Group. We publish, most importantly for this town, the Exeter Newsletter, Portsmouth Herald, Foster's Daily Democrat, Hampton Union, and the websites Seacoast Online and Fosters.com. The New Hampshire primaries and these New Hampshire town halls are steeped in history. And this location is steeped in history. Abraham Lincoln, the first Republican president, in March of 1860, spoke in this very spot. That's a little intimidating. And a few months later, he launched his historic presidential campaign. And since that time, candidates from both parties have come through this space. And on the Republican side, in recent years, we've seen, well, maybe not so recent, Bob Dole and John McCain and Mitt Romney, Donald Trump. And there's a reason why particularly Republican candidates come to Exeter, and that's because 170 years ago this month, a guy named Amos Tuck, who's an Exeter resident, brought together a group of political leaders who didn't want to see slavery expanded, and they began doing the hard work of creating a new political party in this country. So Exeter makes a strong claim to being the birthplace of the Republican Party. And I feel rude having my back over here, so I'm going to face this way now. Hello, everybody. And the New Hampshire primary itself celebrated its 100th anniversary in 2020, and the first New Hampshire primary took place in 1920, and it was part of a reform movement that was sweeping the country that led to women getting the right to vote, the direct election of U.S. senators, which I think everybody agrees are a good thing, and also prohibition came out of that movement too, and we can decide whether we think that's a good idea. The idea of the primaries was to move the power out of back rooms and out of the hands of party bosses and put it in the hands of the people. And that's what the primaries and New Hampshire's first in the nation primary has been doing very well for 100 years. It's stuck around this long because it works. TV ads, social media, what passes for televised debates these days cannot replace the power of a one-on-one conversation between a voter and a candidate. There's nothing more real than a voter's true story or honest question spoken from the heart and a candidate who truly listens and understands. So please, tonight, ask the questions that are close to your heart. The only thing we ask is that the conversation be civil and substantive. And I got around the room before this started and spoke to you, and you're all very civil and substantive people. So I have no doubt that's what's going to happen. On your seat, there was a survey card, and I hope you'll fill it out and let us know what issues are most important to you. Your answers will inform our election coverage going forward. Please also remember to do this, and I always have to remind myself, too, to silence your cell phones. And now, to introduce tonight's special guest and to moderate tonight's conversation, let me introduce you to my colleague, USA Today's Congress and Campaigns reporter, and, far more important, a Manchester native and a recent graduate of St. Anselm's College, Ken Tran. Ken?
First of all, thank you all for being here and packing this room, and also thank you to the folks at home watching this. Just going to give a quick run through of how things are going to go down tonight. Governor Haley is going to come down, make brief opening remarks, and I will give her a question just to kick us off and get us started. After that, the floor is all yours because this is all about you, the voters, and what's on top of your mind heading into 2024. If you want to ask a question, one of our mic runners will head down to you. Please raise your hand to do so. And when you stand up, ask a question, please give your name and say where you're from. And just another quick reminder to please make sure your cell phones are silenced. But with that, Governor Haley.
Let's go!
Thank you so much. How are you? Good to see you, Ken. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. What a crowd. Love it. Thank you, Howard. Thank you, Ken. Thank you all for being here in Exeter. It's good to be back. So, you know, there's no shortage of things that are going on in the country. It's pretty bad, right? You don't have to turn on the news to know how bad it is. We're $33 trillion in debt. We're having to borrow money just to make our interest payments. China owns some of that debt. I would love to tell you that Biden did that to us, and he sent us down this socialism creep that's dangerous that we have to stop. But our Republicans did that to us too. You go back and look at that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill that they passed with no accountability, expanded our welfare to 100 million people on Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps. And did Republicans try and make it right? They opened up pet projects and earmarks for the first time in 10 years, pushing through 7,000 of them last December. Things like $30 million on an honors college in Vermont, $10 million to tear down a hotel in Alaska, $7.5 million on a courthouse in Colorado. In the 2024 budget, Republicans put in $7.4 billion worth of pet projects and earmarks. Democrats put in $2.8 billion. Now you tell me who the big spenders are. You look at education. 29% of 8th graders in our country are proficient in reading. 29%. 26% of 8th graders are proficient in math. That's it. Our education system is in a world of hurt. We've got lawlessness on our border. We have no idea who's coming in and who they are. They're not being vetted. We don't know anything about that. I went to the border, and I didn't just go pull a Kamala, go and come back. I went 400 miles down that border. You wouldn't believe what I saw. I met with sheriffs before 7 a.m. They round up whatever illegal immigrants they can find. They turn them over to Border Patrol. Border Patrol documents them, releases them until their court date years from now. When I asked Border Patrol about their jobs, they said, you want to know what we do? We're glorified babysitters. They don't let us do our jobs. 6 million illegal immigrants have crossed the border. We had enough fentanyl cross the border that would kill every single American last year. Number one cause of death for adults 18 to 45, fentanyl. And don't think for a second China doesn't know what they're doing when they send it over. So we have a lot of issues. Any of those issues could have been dealt with by Congress. But what has Congress done for you lately? Nothing. It's why I constantly say we need to have term limits in Washington, D.C. once and for all. It's why I continue to fight to have mental competency tests for anyone over the age of 75. I'm not being disrespectful. We know 75-year-olds that would run circles around us, right? And then we know Joe Biden. That's not happening. We need people who are at the top of their game. These are people making decisions on our national security. These are people making decisions on their children's future economy. But you know, I've been a governor. I've been at the UN and been an ambassador. But I'm going to tell you what I told South Carolinians when I became governor. No more whining. No more complaining. Now we get to work. How do we fix it? When it comes to the economy, let's claw back the $500 billion of unspent COVID dollars that are out there. Instead of 87,000 IRS agents going after middle America, let's go after the hundreds of billions of dollars of COVID fraud that we know exist, 1 out of every $7. If 8% of our budget is interest, quit borrowing, cut up the credit cards. You have to balance a budget every day. I had to balance a budget as governor. Why is Congress the only group that refuses to balance a budget? They have one job, it's to put out a budget. Do you know they've only put out a budget 4 times in 40 years on time? 4 times. If that's the case, I say no budget, no pay. Why are we paying them if they're not doing their job? Let's focus again on the middle class. Let's go and eliminate the federal gas and diesel tax. Let's cut taxes for the middle class so that they have more in their wallets. Let's make sure we make small business tax cuts permanent. They did it for the big corporations, but they didn't do it for the small businesses. Small businesses are the heartbeat of our economy. And let's make sure we put spending caps in place. And what you'll see, the accountant in me, is we're going to go get the federal programs in D.C. and move them down to the states. One, you'll reduce the size of the federal government, but you'll empower the people on the ground here in the states to make those decisions. When it comes to education in South Carolina, we knew if a child couldn't read by 3rd grade, they were 4 times less likely to graduate high school. So we held them back. We put them in reading remediation programs. We brought in their parents, and we set them up for success. We've got to do that all over this country. We've got to get our kids reading. And we need to make sure that no parent ever wonders what's being said or taught to their child in the classroom. We need complete transparency in the classroom. Parents have one job, and that's to make sure they get it right for their kids. That's why I think parents need to be deciding which schools their kids go to. And we need to make sure we're building things in America again. Let's put vocational classes back in our high schools and teach our kids how to build. In South Carolina, we had apprenticeships, and we had our kids building so many things there. Let's do that. And then when it comes to the border, I passed one of the toughest illegal immigration laws in the country when I was governor. We'll do that nationally. We'll do a national E-Verify program where businesses have to prove that the people they hire are in this country legally. We'll put 25,000 Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. We will defund sanctuary cities once and for all. We will go back to the Remain in Mexico plan, and instead of catch and release, we'll do catch and deport. That's how we'll close off the barrier that we have at the border. So we have the answers to our domestic issues, and I'll let you ask any questions you want. We can answer any of the solutions that we have in place. But now let's talk about national security. Did you ever think we'd look at the sky and see a Chinese spy balloon looking back at us? It's a national embarrassment. You've got Russia invading Ukraine. You've got Iran building a bomb. You've got North Korea testing ballistic missiles. We've now seen the most horrific murders happen by Hamas in Israel. China's on the march. But make no mistake, none of that would have happened had we not had that debacle in Afghanistan. I'm the wife of a combat veteran. He deployed to Afghanistan. The idea that him and his military brothers and sisters who served there had to watch us leave Bagram Air Force Base in the middle of the night without telling our allies who stood shoulder to shoulder with us for decades because we asked them to be there. Think about what that told our friends. More importantly, think about what that told our enemies. And now you look at what happened in Israel. And let me tell you, I was there. I was there on the border of Gaza. I was in Ramallah. I was on the border of Lebanon and saw the 130,000 rockets facing Israel. I was in those tunnels. They're the most sophisticated tunnels you'll ever see. It's where Hamas keeps their equipment, their ammunition. It's where they keep hostages. It's where they hide. What we saw was pure evil on another level. This wasn't just murder. This was torture. And it was gruesome. You know, it's really important that America has a president and that our country has moral clarity at a time like this. We have to know the difference between good and bad. We have to know the difference between right and wrong. In this case, we have to know the difference between good and evil. Israel's getting ready to go through a tough time. It's right for America to have Israel's back. But more importantly, and I know because every day I was at the UN, I watched Israel get hit. And every day I would watch all these countries say, Israel, you need to show restraint. None of those countries, nor would we, show restraint the way Israel's shown restraint all these years. So while we have their back now, that they've been hit, what's more important is that we have their back when they hit back. Because everybody's going to talk about, oh, but what's happening and you can't do this. No, you went in and murdered in the most horrific way Israelis. They have the right to fight back, and we need to have their backs when they do it. We need to eliminate Hamas, and we need to remember who the true backer of all of this is. Iran. I saw it every day. Iran is the backer of Hamas, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, all of that. So this was well orchestrated and well planned. But we have the biggest threat that's faced us since World War II, and that is China. They have been planning war with us for years, and that's not me being dramatic. They're already here. They've bought up 400,000 acres of U.S. soil, most recently near Grand Forks Air Force Base, where our most sensitive drone technology is. They're putting millions of dollars in our universities, stealing our research, spreading Chinese propaganda. You got upset about the Chinese spy balloon? What about the fact that 90% of our law enforcement drones in America are Chinese? So think of all of the surveillance. We've got 12 Chinese police stations in our country. They bought up the largest pork producer in our country. We have all this technology that China uses to threaten America and build up their military, yet the Biden administration approved 70% of it last year. And when it comes to the military, China has grown it at a dangerous pace. They now have the largest naval fleet in the world. They have 350 ships. They'll have 400 in 2 years. We won't even have 350 ships in 2 decades. They're doing space, artificial intelligence, cyber. They've developed hypersonic missiles. We've barely gotten started. And now they're the largest developer of neurostrike weapons. Weapons engineered to change the brain activity of military commanders and segments of the population. So don't listen to Biden and Yellen when they say China is a competitor, because China doesn't see us as a competitor. I dealt with them every day for 2 years. China sees us as an enemy. We need to start looking at them the way they look at us. So how do we deal with it? You do it with strength. You do it with the fact that they're taking up U.S. soil. No more buying U.S. soil, and let's take back what they've already purchased. We'll go to our universities and we'll say, you either take Chinese money or you take American money, but the days of taking both are over. We get the Chinese infiltration out of our schools. When you look at the fact that more people have died of fentanyl than the Iraq, Afghanistan, and Vietnam wars combined, We will go to China and say, we're going to end all normal trade relations with you until you stop murdering Americans. You watch how fast they fix it, because they need us for their economy. And then when it comes to basically the two things at the UN that I saw that China, Russia, and Iran never wanted us to have, they never wanted us to have a strong military, and they never wanted us to be energy independent. Not only will we not be energy independent, we'll be energy dominant. No more going hat in hand to Saudi Arabia, no more getting dirty oil from Iran and Venezuela. And we will strengthen our military. We will make sure we have the strongest military. Give me 2 minutes. We will have the strongest military, but it's not going to be the Department of Defense, it's going to be the Department of Offense. Let's start being smart. We got to pull out the bureaucracy, we got to get out the red tape and focus on the new wars, which are going to be cyber, they're going to be artificial intelligence, they're going to be space. But let's modernize for that. You know, I know he's ready for questions, so we're going to go to that. But I want to tell you this. Not yet, not yet. The biggest issue I have is the national self-loathing that's taken over our country. The idea that people say America's bad, or that it's rotten, or that it's racist. I was elected the first female minority governor in history. America's not racist, we're blessed. Our kids need to know to love America. They need to be saying the Pledge of Allegiance when they start school every day. Three months ago, I dropped my husband Michael off at 3 a.m. for another year-long deployment. And I watched him and 230 soldiers pick up their 2 duffel bags of belongings to go to a country they'd never been, all in the name of protecting America. They're willing to sacrifice their lives and their families because they still believe in this amazing experiment that is America. So if they're willing to sacrifice their lives there, shouldn't we be willing to sacrifice for our country here? Because we have a country to save. But I'll tell you this, if you join with me on this fight, if you commit and you acknowledge what I know is true, that it is time for a new generational leader to lead us forward, I promise you, our best days are yet to come. Thank you very much. You can get up now.
Just a question to kick things off.
See, I told you I was almost done.
I know you touched on it. The war in Israel. I want to ask a little more specifically about comments that former President Donald Trump made last night at a rally in Florida. He said, "President of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, let us down," and he also said Hezbollah was very smart. What do you make of those statements?
I have done over 50 town halls in New Hampshire. So. And in every town hall, I have said, we all need to acknowledge it is time for a new generational leader, that we have to leave the negativity and the chaos and the baggage of the past. This is exactly what I'm talking about. He keeps taking it back to what happened before. This is a dangerous world. I don't want to hear from him how great Hezbollah is. I don't want to see him congratulate the Communist Party anymore. I don't want him hitting Netanyahu. He's going through regardless of what you think about Netanyahu, this is not about Netanyahu. This is about the people of Israel. This is about the fact that when they were dragging those bodies through the streets and they were celebrating, what were they saying? They were saying, death to Israel, death to America. That's what this is about. We can't have someone who's so clouded with the past that they can't see the future. That's what I want to do. We need someone with clarity. I think Donald Trump was the right president at the right time. I don't think he's the right president now. We have to start looking at what we need to go forward. And that is the fact that we have to have focus and discipline and take on the threats that we're facing. I agree with a lot of his policies, but I will tell you now, we cannot above all things, we cannot afford a President Kamala Harris. And everybody in this room needs to know, don't complain about what you get in a general election if you don't play in this primary, because that's exactly what this is all about.
Thank you. And just a quick reminder, if you have a question to ask, please raise your hand, and one of our mic runners will hand the mic to you. And when you ask a question, please say your name, where you're from, and yeah, thank you very much.
There's nothing I won't answer. You may not like my answer, but there's nothing I won't answer. Where are we? Oh, am I? Oh, I call on people. Okay, yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Jordan, and I actually came all the way from Utah to see you.
Oh. Jordan, welcome to Exeter.
Well, thank you. We're a flyover state, so I had to come to New Hampshire to get some attention. So I consider myself still fairly young, mid-30s, so I probably have 40, maybe even 50 years to live. My biggest concern is, like you said, our debt and our deficit. But I want a president that when Congress sends them a budget that isn't paid for, doesn't balance, and adds to our debt and our deficit, I want a president that will veto that budget. Would you do that?
I will veto any spending bill that doesn't take us back to pre-COVID levels. First of all, that's the first thing. The second thing is we need to go and focus. The budget process is broken because what they do is they take last year's budget and they throw more at it. We've got to go to, this is why you need an accountant in the White House. We've got to go look at every agency and say, what do we have to have? And then we've got to pull all those programs from the federal agency and send it down to the states. That is really the biggest thing we could do to start to get our budget back on track. And I'll give you, it's not what I say, it's what I've done. When I was governor in South Carolina, the first thing I did was not focus on passing legislation. The first thing I did was focus on what I could control, which were our agencies. I went to every agency and I changed the head of every agency, whether they were good or not, because I wanted to freshen it up. Then I sent people into each agency to clean it up, pull down old regs, pull down bills, get rid of problem children, really get it back on track. Then I required those agencies every 90 days to start showing return on investment to taxpayers. They had to hit certain benchmarks so that they could show the taxpayers what they were doing for them. We told government, if you're costing a person or a business time, you're costing them money, and that's no longer acceptable. And then I went and saw that those agencies would spend the money because they were worried they weren't going to get the same amount the next year. So we put every bit of the spending online so taxpayers could see it. And then I incentivized them to give money back to the taxpayers. And then they started to compete. And all of a sudden, magic happened. So after we did that, it set the tone for the legislature because I had done this, so then they had to show it. We will get Congress working again. They have to, because they continue to show us. You know, when you look, and I think Democrats have sent us in chaos. We see it with inflation and how high it is. We see it with the lack of transparency in the classroom. We see it with an open border. We see it with crime at all-time highs. We see it with the chaos around the world. But you don't fix Democrat chaos with Republican chaos. We need stability, we need focus, we need discipline, and we need government to work for the people and stop having the people work for government, because that's what's happening right now. That's me.
Hi, my name is Karen. Ambassador, thank you.
Thank you.
You just mentioned how fractured the parties are. Could you comment about the Republican National Committee not seeming to have the pulse of the Republican Party, and what kind of resistance is going on with all the candidates and with Congress having to do with the National Committee?
So I can only speak for me. We don't really deal with the Republican National Committee, except for they give us the dates of the debate and they give us the location. We find out, just like you, who the moderators are when you find out. They don't give us topics, so we never know the topics of what it's going to be in the debate. The only thing they tell us is how many family tickets we get. So that has really been my only interaction with them. The reason I do town halls, the reason I come to you, is because one, it's good for me to hear what you care about. I did that as governor. I mean, it's just really important that you have your pulse on the ground. But two, it allows me to talk to you directly so that there's no middle person. I want you to hear from me. You may not like what I have to say, but I'd much rather be able to say it to you than otherwise. So I can say for me, the RNC is there, but I don't feel it on a day-to-day basis. I don't talk to them on a day-to-day basis. I see them when we do a debate, and that's pretty much it.
But if you're the nominee, I assume that you would have to deal with that.
So that's different. If I am the nominee, then you absolutely make sure that the Republican National Committee is going with your same tone. So what would that look like? First of all, Republicans have lost the last 7 out of 8 popular votes for president. That is nothing to be proud of. We should want to win the majority of Americans. So the first thing the party needs to understand is this is a story of addition, not chasing people away. We should be bringing in Hispanics. We should be bringing in Asians. We should be bringing in women. We should be bringing in the younger generation. We should be bringing in African Americans because our solutions are the right ones, but we have to also know how to communicate it. And when we bring more people in, that makes us better. So I have said that for years. I will continue to say that. My parents were Democrats up until Reagan. I'm Indian. My parents are Indian. It's not that they were Democrats because they believed Democrat policies, but that was all who talked to them. Democrats were the only ones that would talk to them. We have to make sure we're talking to everybody. I want everybody to hear what we think. I want everybody to be a part of the solution. And so to me, the biggest thing the RNC can do is expand the tent and make sure that we are doing everything we can to bring everybody in.
So do you believe that there should be new leadership in the RNC?
Well, I think there should be new leadership everywhere. I'm a big believer in like everything.
Portsmouth.
Hi, Jeffrey.
You spoke a lot at the beginning about the border. And here in New Hampshire, we've seen businesses close because they can't find workers. And the vast majority of the people trying to get into the country are not criminals. Would you support, or what would you see as a meaningful immigration reform that allowed the people who want to come in here to work to come in and actually become Americans, like your parents did, and screened out the criminals? Because under Trump and still under Biden, they've very basically cut way back on the number of people, the legal pathways to come in. And the reason people are coming in illegally is because the legal pathways have closed off. So I want to know what you...
It's a great, great question. So, on one side, we hear a lot about the border, and rightfully so, because there's so much lawlessness and we feel it. But there's also, we have a broken legal immigration system that we have to acknowledge. It should not take someone 10 years to become a citizen. It's ridiculous. You can do both at the same time. So how do we do it? First, I told you about the border, how we need to fix it. That's hugely important. We are a country of laws. The second you stop being a country of laws, you give up everything our country was founded on. But I'll also tell you from the daughter of legal immigrants. My parents came here legally. They put in the time. They put in the price. They are offended by what's happening on the border. Because what happened is those 6 million people just cut the line. And all those other people trying to do it the right way are saying, wait a minute. Now, how do we fix the legal immigration system? First of all, Republican and Democrat presidents for too long have said, let's do it based on quotas. We'll take in this number this year, we'll take in this number next year. It's the wrong way to do it. The way I think we need to do it is, what do our industries need from us? So think agriculture, think construction, think tourism, think healthcare, think tech. Let's do it based on merit. Then whoever you're bringing in, it actually builds up our economy. It's good for us. It makes sense to do it. But the second thing is, I'll tell you what we did in South Carolina, which I think is more important. Let's go to Americans first. So the way we did it, when I became governor, we had 11% unemployment. We had thousands of people on welfare. South Carolina was the butt of the jokes. But what I did is I went to those people on welfare, and I went to my businesses, And I told my businesses, if you will take this person and train them, I will pay for them for X number of weeks. It's the time they would have been on the couch. We paid them to get trained. And I said, and at the end of it, you decide if you want to hire them. We moved 35,000 people from welfare to work. Why? Sometimes people don't know where to get the training. The same way businesses didn't know where to find the workers. And we would have celebrations for these families because we were breaking a generational cycle of dependency on government. And they were so proud of what they were able to give back. They were so proud of being able to bring home a paycheck and be a contributing citizen. I'll take it a step further. I went into our prisons. I was obsessed with our prisons. I wanted to know how people got in there, what happened when they were there, and what happened when they left. And so I met with inmates in the maximum security prisons. I met with our women. I met with our men, everyone. Through all of it, we reformed it. We started putting family planning classes in there. We taught them computer skills. We taught them resume building. We gave them faith-based training if they wanted it. But I put equipment behind the fence, and we taught them a skill. Now in South Carolina, when someone leaves the fence, they've got a job to go to the next day. We have the lowest recidivism rate in the country. When you first focus on lifting up the least of these, that's when you get the best permanent solutions, because you're actually breaking generational cycles when you do that. Those people needed to know that we need them, that they have value, that they could contribute in a way that would help all of us. So we do them first. Then we have to fix legal immigration, but we do it based on merit that will help our economy. And if we do that, everybody wins. Okay, yes, sir.
I just want you to know I came all the way from Plastow to see you. That's about 10 miles from here. My concern is with these super PACs. They're controlling the elections, not just the Soros and those people. It's our own people in the Republican Party. We backed some people last year that got trounced in the primaries in here because the money was coming from the Republicans down in Washington, not necessarily the Democrats. And then we had someone that claims he's a Democrat or a Republican, like Chris Christie, is backing a Democratic candidate for the House. I mean, they're controlling things, and it's because of the money. If I have $1 billion, I can't give it to you, but I can set up a PAC, and I can say I'm going to go out and cover everybody in the country with information about you. Now, you know that you're going to be beholden to me just as you would if I gave you the money personally. So somehow, I don't know how we can do it, but I don't know how people are going to get elected without this money coming in, this huge amounts of money. It's massive amounts of money.
I think if you look at every election, and I can vouch for this, it's more and more expensive. It's unbelievable how much money we have to raise to be able to run. And I'm not even president, yes, but even to run for a state house seat, even to run for county council, to run for school board, it's expensive. And what's so expensive? It's the communication. It's being able to get your message out. And the biggest, most expense is TV commercials. And so what I think, I don't know what the answer is to the super PACs, but I can tell you that what is done with the super PACs is commercials. That's what people do. So they go and you get as much as you can in hard dollars, and then you go and the rest is done with commercials. But yes, you have to be able to vet your candidate. You've got to make sure there are people, part of what you do and you do well, and you've done it for years, is you vet people. Like, trust me, those 50 town halls, y'all didn't always go easy on me. You vet people.
You do that in New York, in Texas, and California.
The town halls? No, I agree. When we go to Texas or if we go anywhere else, we can do town halls, but the way you reach people is through commercials again. But you know, the finance laws, they've cleaned them up and they've done them again, and they've cleaned them up and they've done them again, and both parties do it, Republicans and Democrats do it, and all candidates do it because there's only so much money that people like you can give, and so you end up doing it. I will tell you, though, the one thing you can watch for is if somebody has like one donor. Like when you see George Soros and you see that one donor is paying for everything, because the good thing is all of these are still reported. You have a way of going and looking at the filings and seeing what's reported. That's what I can promise you is I'll always fight for transparency, for you to see everything in government and otherwise. I did that in South Carolina. I did it at the UN. I think you need to see everything that's possible to see, because then you can make the best decision. And so I think if we keep pushing for transparency, you can keep having the information to make the best decision. Yes, back in the back. Yes. Oh, no, it was her, but then we can come back. Yes.
Just wait for the mic. Ever since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, a federal abortion ban has been widely talked about. If you were the president, would you support a federal abortion ban?
It's a great question. So let's do some history, and then we'll go back to it. I love that you asked the question. So prior to 1970, first of all, let me answer my stance. I am unapologetically pro-life. Not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband was adopted, and I had trouble having both of my children. So I'm surrounded by blessings. Having said that, I don't judge anyone for being pro-choice any more than I want you to judge me for being pro-life. This issue is personal for every woman and every man, and it needs to be treated that way. And I don't think that Americans have been told the truth. So I'm going to tell you the truth. Prior to 1973, we had 46 state laws that dealt with abortion. The people had decided that's what happened. In 1973, all those laws were thrown out, and unelected justices decided abortion anytime, anywhere, for any reason. Now the unelected justices reversed that and put it back into the hands of the people. I agree with that. I think it needs to be close to the people so that you can have your voice heard. In some cases, states have become pro-life. I welcome that. In other cases, states have gone more on the abortion side. I wish it wasn't the case, but people decided. So I respect that. When it comes to a federal law, this is where the truth comes out. When it comes to a federal law, in order to pass anything, you have to have a majority of the House, 60 Senate votes, and a signature of a president. We haven't had 60 Republicans in over 100 years. We may have 45 pro-life senators. So no Republican president can ban abortions any more than a Democrat president can ban those state laws. So what can we do? Is there room for a federal law? I think there is room for a federal law, but the only way there's room is if we have consensus. We have to agree. So can't we all agree that we don't want late-term abortions? Can't we all agree that we should encourage adoptions and good quality adoptions? Can't we all agree that doctors and nurses who don't believe in abortion shouldn't have to perform them? Can't we all agree that contraception should be accessible? And can't we all agree that no state law should tell a woman who's had an abortion that she's going to go to jail or get the death penalty? Let's start there. Stop demonizing this issue. We have to humanize it. When I was in college, I had a roommate that was raped, who was raped. I wouldn't wish on anyone what she went through wondering if she was pregnant. Everybody has a story. Be respectful of their story. We can do this without hating each other. We can do this by listening to each other. Our goal, without knowing any of your views, our collective goal is how do we save as many babies as possible and support as many moms as possible. So if we go in with that mindset and we go in with the fact that we are going to be respectful about it, that's when good things happen. So that's my answer to you. Thank you. Got to go to my veteran. God bless you for your service.
Thank you. And thank your husband. And speaking of being a veteran, I want to talk about the veteran community. I recently took a trip to San Diego, and I came out of my hotel room and walked down the street, and I saw one veteran after another, homeless, begging for money. I mean, I felt like I had to go to the bank, break a 50 into, because I didn't want to give everybody a $50 bill, but breaking my bills into smaller bills so we can take care of our veterans. We have some people who are coming into the country who were putting up in $500, $600 a night hotel rooms, but the veterans laying out on the sidewalk, begging for money, begging for a place to stay. We're making cots, we're making tents, and we're sending people to Martha's Vineyards, but we're not sending our veterans there. So how can we take care of the veterans that have served the country for so many years?
So now you're talking about something close to my heart. When I was growing up, my parents always said, you take care of those who take care of you. But I'm going to ask you if we're taking care of those who take care of us. Right now in America, 33,000 of our veterans are homeless. 1 in 3 suffers from PTSD or thoughts of suicide. We lose 22 heroes a day to suicide. If a veteran needs a doctor's appointment at the VA, on average, 29 days. Why 29 days? Because on the 30th day, they can go to the doctor or hospital of their choice. So midway through the 29 days, they get a call to reschedule, and the clock starts all over again. It's shameful how we treat our veterans. So this is how I will handle it. First of all, we all see when the TVs pick up when our families deploy. And you see the tears that are shed. And then you see the days when our loved ones come back to us. And it's a blessing. That's what we pray for all year long. When my husband came back home from Afghanistan, we were overjoyed. That was the easy part. It's when we got home that it got hard. When we got home, he couldn't hear loud noises. He couldn't be in crowds. Life had passed him by for the year that he was gone, and the transition was tough. We can't just love our men and women when they're gone. We gotta love them when they come back home too. So the way we do that, let's help them through that transition. Let's do better. Let's make sure we have telehealth so that they can get the mental health treatment right when they need it. Let's make sure they can use their GI benefits for more than education. And the one thing that I think is really, let's let them go to the doctor or hospital of their choice. They've earned that right. And the one way I'm going to make sure that we get our veterans' health care taken care of is I think every member of Congress needs to get their health care from the VA. And you watch how fast that gets fixed. It'll be the best health care you've ever seen, I guarantee you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Chris. I'm the UN Ambassador. I didn't come very far.
Finally, somebody from Exeter.
The right and the left get lots of attention in the media, but there's a big middle that maybe doesn't get so much. So if you're the Republican nominee and are elected president, how will you represent the middle?
I don't want to represent the middle. I want to represent America, right? That's the biggest thing is, you know, if you go and you ask people in South Carolina, or if you go and ask people at the UN, I never worried about a side. I always worried about how we pulled people together. And let me give you an example. Y'all may remember that horrific shooting we had in Charleston, South Carolina. We had 12 people do what so many people do on a Wednesday night. They went to Bible study. But on that night, someone else showed up. He didn't look like them. He didn't act like them. He didn't sound like them. They didn't call the cops. They didn't throw him out. Instead, they pulled up a chair and they prayed with him for an hour. And when they bowed their heads in that last prayer, he began to shoot. These were people like Ethel Lance. She had lost her daughter 2 years prior to breast cancer. But she would go around cleaning Mother Emanuel Church, singing "One Day at a Time, Sweet Jesus." That's all I ask of you. Give me the strength to do every day what I have to do. Our youngest victim, Tywanza Sanders, had the world in front of him. He had just graduated college. But on that night, he stood in front of his 87-year-old great Aunt Susie, looked at the killer and said, "You don't have to do this. We mean no harm to you." Or it was people like Cynthia Hurd, whose life motto was just to be kinder than necessary. That's who these people were. But when it happened on this night, it was the first time we had a shooting in a place of worship. Children were scared to go to church. South Carolina was brought to their knees. And the media came in like nothing the national media like nothing I'd ever seen. This was on the heels of Ferguson, where we were turning on the TV and seeing all of the riots. I immediately strong-armed the national media, and I said, they wanted to talk about race, they wanted to talk about guns, they wanted to talk about death penalty, and I said, there will be a time and place we deal with that, but we have to lay 9 souls to rest. I didn't have that luxury, because 2 days later, the killer came out with his manifesto, and he was draped in the Confederate flag. I told my staff, I said, I want you to call 4 meetings. I want you to call the Republican leadership. I want you to call the Democrat leadership. I want you to call our congressional delegation, and I want you to call community leaders. And don't tell them why I'm calling, because I knew they wouldn't come. The Confederate flag was a very personal, divisive issue in South Carolina. In those meetings, I went and told them, I said, at 3 o'clock today, I'm going to call for the Confederate flag to come down. And if you will stand with me, I will forever be grateful. And if you won't, I'll never tell anyone you were in this room. And I have kept my word to that. At 3 o'clock, we had Republicans, Democrats, we had whites, blacks, all of it. That was the easy part. But it took 2/3 vote in the House and the Senate, which is an unbelievable feat. In South Carolina, the Confederate flag, like I said, is personal. 50% of the state saw it as heritage and tradition. The other 50% saw it as slavery and hate. My job wasn't to judge either side. My job was to get them to see the best of themselves and how to go forward. The Senate passed it quickly because the pastor of the church, he was supposed to be in session that day, but he was in the Bible study, and he had been gunned down, and so it was their brother that had died. So they passed that part easily. The House, not so easy. I told the Speaker of the House, I need you to get this done. He goes, he comes back, he says, okay, they're willing to do it, but they want to put a different Confederate flag up there. I'm like, nope, we're not having it, no flag. Then he came back a couple of days later, he said, I've got it. We'll take care of it. Flag's coming down. I said, great, we need to go vote on it. He goes, there's just one thing. He said, just one small thing. I'm like, what is it? He said, they just don't want to take the flagpole down. South Carolina's a blood sport. If you can survive South Carolina, you can survive anything. I knew what that meant. I knew that if the flagpole was up, as soon as the national media left, the flag was going right back up. So I said, no flag, no flagpole. He said, Governor, he said, you could declare a win. The national media would see you brought it down. And I said, you're missing the point. I don't ever want another governor to go through what we have gone through. He said, I can't do it. I said, okay, then I'm going to talk to him. So I went to go talk to the caucus. And I said, I want to tell you a story. When I was growing up, my dad would love, every once in a while he'd go to the big city and he would take me with him. And he loved to stop by produce stands. He always liked buying directly from farmers. And so one day, he stopped by the farmer's produce stand and he's getting vegetables and fruits and putting it in his basket. And the 2 people at the register looked alarmed. And then I saw them pick up the phone. And then 2 police cars drove up. My dad wears a turban. He continued to get his produce. He put it in the basket. He went to the register. He paid, and he thanked them. He didn't talk to me the whole way home because he was hoping I didn't know what just happened. I knew exactly what had just happened. And so I told the caucus that day, I said, whenever I go to the airport to get on the governor's plane, I have to pass that produce stand. And every time I pass it, I feel pain. I said, don't make any child ride by our State House and see that Confederate flag and feel pain. Get rid of the flag, get rid of the flagpole. 1 a.m. that night, they got rid of the flag and they got rid of the flagpole. The point of that is, we didn't have protests, we had vigils. We didn't have violence, we had hugs. But I didn't judge anybody for what they thought. I just got them to see the best of themselves. So when you talk about a medal, the first thing that I want to do, yes, I have conservative beliefs, we're going to always have that. But without knowing any of your affiliations, we agree on 80% of things. It's the 20% we fight over. So let's make sure that instead of going and like hating on each other, it's okay to disagree. We're blessed to live in a democracy. That's what we do. But what I can promise you is all the toxicity, all the division, all the hate will come to an end because it doesn't do any. I don't want my kids to grow up like that. I don't want your kids to grow up like that. So that's the promise I'll make to you is I will lead the same way I did as governor, the same way I did at the UN. Even I dealt with Russia and China every day, every day. I had to deal with Israel and the Palestinians all the time. But they will all tell you that I always told them the truth. Because I went to those countries and I told them what America was for and what America was against. I didn't care if they didn't like me, but I wanted them to respect America. And that's the same leadership I'll bring as president.
This has been a great conversation so far, but I just want to give a warning that we are running low on time, so we have time for one more question and then closing remarks from you.
Oh, make it a good one. You've been very patient. Yes, sir.
So I'm representing the younger voters of not only New Hampshire, but Exeter. My name is Colton. I live in Exeter. I am 18. I am a registered voter. So my question for you is, what advice do you have for the decreasing amount of younger voters that either won't be voting in this next coming election or are swayed to one side? As a young person, what is your message to me and everyone else that will be voting in 2024?
You know, it's a great question, and I think that I want to talk to everybody, not just the younger ones, because I think it's important that we all hear this. Look at it from a younger person's point of view. I know that because my kids are 22 and 25. They don't watch the news on TV because they think both sides are crazy, and I don't know that they're wrong. They get their news off the internet. They don't care about money as much as you do. They want to be a part of something bigger. They want to be a part of something that they can make a difference in. That's what we want. That's actually what's needed to heal our country. They care about different issues. They're bigger on the environment because they want a future. They want to know what's going to be there. But guess what? We want clean air and clean water too. So let's start talking to them about that. Let's admit climate change is real. And let's talk about what we can do to get that going. Let's show them ways, rather than ignoring them, let's include them in on the solutions. Let's talk to them about the future of jobs. Let's talk to them about how none of them know how they're going to afford a home. Let's talk to them about the fact that they go to college and all these student loans, but no one ever sits down to them and tells them what they're signing when they get that loan. And no one tells them how to pay it back. We owe that generation a lot. But if we give it to them, they are going to do so much more than we ever thought they were going to do. So now I'm going to talk to you. They needed to know about you. I just told them about you. Now I'm going to tell you, I agree, both parties are crazy. But we need you. And what I will tell you is on every issue that you have a concern, I will be there to answer your question. And what I can promise you is we may not always agree on everything, but you are going to be on my mind every day because we owe you that. I think about you when I think about the debt and the fact that y'all aren't going to forgive us for what has happened. I think about you when I think about crime. You shouldn't have to go to a drugstore and see a man standing there with a gun to go in and get something. I think about you with education. You don't need to worry about whether you can read or whether you have math or whether you're going to be able to get a job. I think about how in the world are you going to buy a home when they're as expensive as they are and banks aren't lending anymore. I think about you when I look at the border And I pray that you never experience 9/11 the way we did. And I think about you when I know you're looking at everything happening in the world and all the terror that surrounds us. And what I want you to know is I will spend my last breath trying to protect you and trying to make sure that you have a better life than we did, because you deserve it.
Thank you. I apologize. I know I said I was going to give you time for closing remarks, but we are running right up against the clock. But I will say that...
Can I get 2 minutes? 5.
You can get 2 minutes.
All right. So this is what I'll tell you, and let's respect where he is. This is what I'll tell you. We can save our country. We can get her to a better place. I know that. I have faith. But I need you to know that. And in order to do that, it's going to take a lot of courage. Courage from everyone in this room. Courage for me to run. And courage for every one of you to know, don't complain about what happens if you don't play in this primary, because it does matter. Someone asked me why I was running, and I told them my parents came here 50 years ago to an America that was strong and proud and full of opportunities. I want them to know that country again. I'm doing this for my husband, Michael, and his military brothers and sisters. They need to know their sacrifice matters. They need to know that we love our country. I'm doing this for my daughter who just got married, and I saw how hard it was for her and her husband to buy a home. And I'm doing this for my son who's a senior in college, and I'm tired of watching him write papers of things he doesn't believe in just to get an A. And for the first time, 78% of Americans don't think their kids are going to live as good of a life as we did. We can't be okay with that. I'm not okay with that. We have a country to save. But if you will join me, my ask of you is, if you like what I had to say, go tell 10 people. Go tell them to go to NikkiHaley.com. Go tell them to volunteer. Go tell them to get involved. Tell them to be a part of it, even if they've never voted before. Because we do have a country to save, and I know we can do it. If you don't like what I've had to say today, just don't say anything and don't tell anyone you were here. God bless you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Governor.
Congratulations.
The Governor will be sticking around to take photos and also take your personal questions. But thank you to everyone here, and thank you to the folks at home. Stay tuned to the rest of our week's forums. Thank you very much. Have a good night.